All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening and watching the College Football Fighting Chance Betting Show. I am Kayvon Izami. You can follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports alongside my guy Dan Hickman, Dan H720 on Twitter. And we've got a very special guest in-house today. A lot of fun. Our first guest actually for the show too, which is really, really cool. So Dan, I'm going to pass this over to you to introduce them, and then we'll go from there and explain once again what the show is, and we'll get the picks rolling.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really proud to announce our first guest ever today, the man right below me here, one of the founding fathers of what I would consider to be the ultimate NHL DFS community that's out there. Talking about, of course, the Morning Skate podcast. He's been betting for many years, really sharp mastermind bettor. He's a diehard Buffalo Sabres fan. This guy has, very thick skin as well, being a Sabres fan. And none other than DJ Mitchell, everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Yeah, no, this is great. I think that the one thing I tell, because I do a lot of different shows and I talk about a lot of different sports. I don't do every single sport, but I think a lot of them offer a unique opportunity. And with college football, I think there's so much noise and public influence on the lines that it gives you a really interesting perspective on like how to bet. Where it doesn't exist as much in other sports, like football, ultra sharp, but you can make generational wealth really easily. Well, not easily, but there is opportunity for generational wealth every week. Hockey, I think, is the softest lines that exist, which is why I focus on it the most. And then college football, I just love because you'll literally watch lines just move dramatically because of just the dumbest, most like literally a coach will like say one thing and the line will just drop like 5 points. You're like, are you kidding? So I think there's so much noise in college football that it makes it so much fun to bet. And you find ridiculous fun things that I like to bet, which other people don't as much, but I'm going to get to those when we get into it today.
Yeah, just to pile on that, because I love that point, man. And what's awesome to kind of go with it, which is why I think we see so many line movements in college football. There's so many games in college football where that's what I love about it. You don't like this game, you don't have to bet it because there's like 200 others on a Saturday that you can pick and choose from, and you see so much momentum. And I'm going to get into a line that's moved like crazy later in the show that I'm betting, and we'll dive into that. So I think that's a great point, DJ. Let's get started then. So for those that don't know, that's new to the show, how this works is me and Dan usually have 3 picks each, and our last pick is our best bet of the show. DJ, obviously being here with us, will have his 3 picks as well. So you're getting 9 total picks this week. These are our favorite picks of the weekend for the college football slate. A lot of games. It's a interesting slate, not that many big games, but usually those are when you can actually find the most holes in the lines when you're not focusing on some of those big games here. So Dan, I'll give it to you to pick, go ahead and start the show with your first bet, and we'll kind of just do like a round table here and go bet by bet until we finish it off.
Yeah. Did you want me to cover last week?
Yeah, I guess you should probably do that, even though it's not looking great.
It was gross. We hate to like sit here and cry about it, but we also believe in transparency here on this show. So I'm just going to show it really quick for the people.
Yeah, that's the one. Since the start, we've preached transparency. So we had a great year last year. When we're slipping, we can't just hide away from it. So we'll show what we got, and we'll rebound. And this is when things start to turn around from here.
Yeah, so in case you're wondering why I was looking all over the place, I was actually looking for a brown paper bag because looking at this just really makes me want to do that. It's disgusting. That Pitt Tennessee game, if Slovis doesn't get hurt, there's no way in hell that game doesn't go over. The pace it was on in that first half, it was a totally different second half. That ruined it, in my opinion. And Bama, how disappointing. So I think it's the worst performance I've seen by Alabama.
I think this is the first time that I've watched college football and can actually say Nick Saban got outcoached. Nick Saban completely got outcoached in that game.
Absolutely.
I'm okay. Like, I know you picked that bet, but I bet that as well on the side, and I'm okay losing that, man. I mean, you just don't see that happen often. You got to give your hats off to Sark there and the Texas defense. I mean, the amount of penalties that Bama had, you just don't see that from a Bama team. For me, the one that the Pitt Tennessee, you're right, that would have hit. Miami just got off to a slow start. They would have covered that if they started faster. The one that I regret is the Oklahoma State Arizona State game. Both of those teams were running high volume per play the first 2 weeks of the season, and that completely dropped off in week 3. I should have saw that coming. I should have saw that they were going to slow the tempo down, but it happens. Let's move on. Let's start our picks. Let's get into a groove here and have some fun.
Yeah, sure. You guys probably don't want to see me too close, but all right. Sorry, I'm all over the place with that. So for my first pick of the week here, I'm going to go with none other than ODU, Old Dominion, and UVA. We're going to take the under 53 that's out there right now. I didn't even check where this opened, but basically, I know most people that kind of know what they're doing here, you're probably not going to really be using your metrics too much till like next week is the week that I'm really looking forward to for like really using metrics and my bets like on a really high level. This week, I'm going to dip my toes in with that. On this game, I'm definitely dipping my toes in. This is essentially, I'm going to talk about basically like Havoc allowed versus Havoc on the defensive side of the ball. And both these defenses essentially are very stingy looking right now. Like, really surprised I'm sitting here saying that about UVA, a team I usually am betting the over total on. But if you look at what ODU is doing as well, I mean, they're dominating the Havoc defensively, and then both offenses are sputtering too to start this season. Now this could be the week they both go off, which is the only thing that scares me. But I'm gonna grab the under here. It's really that simple of a play for me. Like this thing was popping in like all those categories that I love. For like, I mean, if you wanted to take ODU and against the spread, I would understand it. But for me, the fact that UVA's defense has been doing better too, like really makes this a strong underplay. So let's go under 53, minus 107 out there.
Bronco Mendenhall leaves UVA and in comes Clemson and everything changes. He's trying to bring that Dabo style. DJ, let's go ahead and pass it to you, and then I'll end us on the first round. And DJ, thanks. You put that in the chat there. That opened at 53 for that ODU. Yeah, good looks on that.
The spread dropped, so it went from 10.5 UVA to 8.5, but the line stayed the same. So I think that's probably a good indication. I like the under there. Then that's just fine. My first bet's probably the grossest. I get that a lot of people will not like it, and I don't mind. I really don't care because Nevada over 8.5 at plus money, and I know they're playing at Iowa. And I know it's Iowa. They don't give up any points right now, but that just seems like an amazing overreaction. The reason I like it even more is because like the spread has gone up a lot. So the point total stayed the same. The spread gets wider, meaning that basically the public is like just factoring in Iowa. The books are now catching up. So they're thinking that it's going to be even a bigger blowout. And I like that because if Iowa gets up early, which another thing I noticed was the first half points for Iowa are way higher than the second half, meaning that the books also think they're going to get up early. So you're telling me Iowa, who's missing a lot of receivers, so I know they're going to slow it down. They're going to run the ball. You're playing against the Nevada team that is absolutely emaciated on defense. They're probably going to give up quite a few chunks of yardage. I just feel like 8.5 is unbelievably low for any team in college football ever. I know it's at Iowa, 7:30 start. I kind of like that though. Night game, Nevada coming in, the big underdog. They're not the best, but I do think there's some explosive players on this offense. I don't think it's like completely out of the. It's 9 points. It's 9 points. It's plus money. Like these are the bets that I love to play, and I know people don't like that. Like people will literally say, like, I would rather stick a fork in my eye, but I don't care. Like 9 points as a massive 23-point underdog. This is a real college football team. This isn't some made up D2 school. Like this is an actual team that recruits good talent. Like I don't buy. I'd rather play the easy game here, I think, and assume that a scripted drive early in the game for Nevada goes right, and you're at 7. You need a field goal. Like that's how I like the bet. Like it's literally, it's just like, what's the median projection for them for points? There's no way it's under 9. So what are the odds they hit that over on the median? It's probably above 50% on, anyone's metrics, and it's 8.5 plus money, plus 105. So I get it. A lot of people are probably just going to say, I'd rather not. Don't. I put that in. I would rather take like I said, it's just a very low risk in a portfolio of bets, like especially if you're, parlaying or round robining like I do. I just think it's smart. It's really not a lot to it other than that, where I think that Iowa will score, they will get plays in bunches, and they will allow Nevada to be on the field a bit more on offense. And that's why I think this bet makes sense. Just give Nevada chances, and they will find a way to get 9 points.
I actually looked at that bet as well, so it's really funny you brought that up, and it makes me happy that you brought that up because I did not expect that, man. Ask Dan. I love playing sicko mode games like that.
Yeah,
like I'm with you, man. I'm totally.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes to what
way,
you said when you opened it up, the show. Those are the type of lines that you can bounce on, man. Like Iowa, and also not to mention Iowa's offense is a turnover machine right now.
Yeah.
They get a turnover, man. They're already in good field position. I'm totally with you on that. Yeah, I love that you exploited that.
Well, and just seeing the line movement, like I'm saying, like the total hasn't moved. Iowa's getting more points. It's just the public betting it that way. I don't think it actually makes sense so that means that Nevada's losing points on the books. So they've come down 3 points. That's when you jump. And I think that's the way I like to bet. And I kind of waited on this one compared to others because I was like, I wonder where that's going to get to. And I see it at 8.5. I'm like, I can't imagine it gets lower than they wouldn't probably allow it to. So that's where I jump. And I try to find my niche there. Like I just rationally think about what that bet's saying. That bet's saying that the books think under 50% of the time Nevada doesn't get 9 points. And I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
That's so like, I think it's more of a logic bet, like in perpetuity of betting. Like I will bet that every time. And I will hit more often than not. If it doesn't hit here, it's because Nevada really is this bad. I'm just not willing to assume that they're that bad on offense. And Iowa's actually this good on defense. That's just the way it's going to go all season. Like it's going to break. Like one game, Iowa's going to accidentally give up, 25 points. It might not be here, but if they give up 9, I'm happy. Like that's it.
And the odds are in your play. Yeah. Without a doubt. That's a great play. I love that. And again, man, I've watched. Even though I want to stab my eyes out watching this Iowa team, their quarterback turns the ball over left and right. So there's a lot of ways that they could get over that point total there. All right, let's go. I'm going to a under here. I'm going to maybe the biggest game of the weekend. And usually I don't like to play these big games, but this I couldn't take my eyes off of this. I'm going Texas A&M Miami under 44.5. This line has moved, actually. Pretty sure it opened at 48, maybe even 49, and I'm totally okay with the way this moved. These are two teams and two coaches that want to play an absolute physical game. They want to run the ball as much as possible. It's going to be a battle in the trenches. Both offenses are – Texas A&M's offense is atrocious. Miami's offense is good, but I don't know if Miami's offense is going to be able to have success against a pissed off Texas A&M defense. A lot of people are saying, oh, Jimbo Fisher's going to get the boys wild up. They lost to App, all that stuff. Jimbo, the problem with all of this Jimbo stuff is Jimbo's running an offense from 1998. He doesn't know how to change his offense up. He never has. It's the most bland, non-creative offense out there. And Mario Cristobal knows how to play against this type of opponent. He has always built his team like it's an SEC team. A lot of people, when you play a team against the SEC, are you worried about the physicality? Mario Cristobal knows how to play against the SEC. I think that this is going to be a gross, pounded out type of run game. And I really think the only way that this does go over is if the quarterbacks start turning the ball over like crazy and there's just a ton of bad field position for these defenses. I just think both defenses are better than the offense, and I think Miami knows that Texas A&M is a one-trick pony. They're going to shut down Haynes King. They're going to shut down the run game and try and make Haynes King beat them, and that's not going to work out. It's a very simple play to me, man. I just think both teams are great in the trenches. I love the under, and I actually think it might keep going down. So I would get this as soon as you can. And as DJ said in chat, it's 48.5 down to 44.5. So yeah, that's a big dip. And I do think it will keep going down. So I would get that as soon as you can. I think Dan might touch on the side in this, which I agree with him on, but I love the under in this play. It's one of my favorite plays of the game. The physicality is too strong for me. The coaching on Miami's side is nothing that I'm worried about going up against an SEC opponent. And while everyone says Texas A&M is going to be mad, they're going to try and score, they can't because they don't have the personnel for it at the quarterback position. And most importantly, they don't run the offense that puts them in a position to score unless it's by their running back going over 150 yards on the ground.
Yep.
And Mario Cristobal knows that. He's going to shut it down. I love the under in this game.
Yeah, I love the under as well. I'm going to go right into my next play. Unless, DJ, did you have something you want to say about that one?
No, I think it's correct. I think that's about what I think I wish I would have jumped on it early. I try not to look too early on college football because I talk myself into way too many bets before anything actually happens. So I try not to look too early. I wish I would have looked a little bit earlier.
Me too, man. Yeah. I have a thing over here that says it opened at 53.5. If that's true, it's gone down like 9 points.
What I see is 49. So I don't know how the 53.5. That's pretty wild. Yeah, that's a mess.
There's a lot of
maybe on Sunday,
like with points bets and stuff, like some of the Canadian books coming into the mix. Like I think they could be way more off, but I don't know what they have.
Yeah.
I just looking up like the median opening line for all of them. So. And like DraftKings and stuff are way sharper, so it's tough to know.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
But I would get on this as soon as possible. Once it starts getting, 44, 43.5, that's when you start to get really risky there. So I'm okay with it where it's at. I would love to have got it at 45. Well, personally, I did get it at 45, but I'm going to give it at 44.5 for the show bet because that's what it is right now. So I'm going to be fair about that. But try and get that as soon as you can.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do something with that later.
Could you?
I might even. I might do a same game parlay.
I think it would make a lot of sense with your bet that you haven't said yet. Yeah, I think it would make even more sense to assume.
Yeah. So without any further ado, let's move to our second bets of the night or of the week rather. I'm gonna go with Miami in this game. Against the spread. Right now, I was seeing +6. It did open at +8. It's definitely one I wish I had grabbed early, but I didn't think to do that. I actually have I have them winning this game outright. I'm thinking they're going to win it by like 2-3 points or even just 1 point. It's going to be a really close game. I'm with you, Kayvon. I think it's going to be a very grinded out affair. This is definitely a sharp and public money bet. 75% of the bets, 85% of the money coming in on them. I think it's one of the better values on the whole slate. Personally, this whole thing where you're alluding to about Texas A&M, I think that he has the wrong quarterback out of the three in there, and I don't think it's going to get figured out during the course of this game, and that's a pretty big negative factor against Texas A&M here. I like the sprinkle on Miami as well. There's a lot of ways you could look at betting this game. I think any of those three are fine. I think you could maybe do a single game parlay like we're just saying. One thing is we don't really know how good or bad these teams are yet. Miami's had 2 inferior opponents. The only thing that would give me a little pause if I was looking at all these lines, that'd be one of them. But some people thinking maybe A&M can't possibly be as bad as they were last week. Well, they were. I mean, I wasn't super high on App State coming into the season. So maybe I look like an idiot saying that, but I mean, I just wasn't. And the fact that they didn't handle App State at home just doesn't look well for them. So give me the U +6.
All I know, man, is if Texas A&M starts to get down in this game, that entire stadium is going to be pooping themselves. They are already that fan base, man. And listen, I love Texas A&M fans. You guys are loyal. You guys are outspoken. You guys love your team, and that's what I love about a fandom. But man, they were very high on their team this year, and if they lose 2 in a row, that's going to be a tough one. But I do think you're on the right side. I just think Miami's too good of a team to getting 6 points against, again, a team that is terrible offensively in Texas A&M. So, DJ, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, this is one that's kind of dropped a bit, but I like Tulane. I really just think that Pratt's a good quarterback in general. Like I know turnovers could maybe be an issue with him, but I just think he's actually good. And I mean, I just think that 16.5 is where it opened. It went to 14. The total dropped. I don't think this is going to be the craziest, highest scoring game in the world. And like I said, I think I'm down from 49. I had it open to 47.5. I just think that 14 is a lot for Kansas State, who isn't world beating. Like I know they've been pretty good to start the year, but you're telling me a really good quarterback in a negative game, or a positive game script for him to do well and him to have the football, he can't keep it within 2 touchdowns. I find that hard to believe. I just think it's a better team than the books are giving him credit for. And the public's, I think, sharp on this. And I think it's going to come down even more because I think it's the most of the better bettors are probably coming in on it and putting it down from where it opened at, and for good reason. This is a sound Tulane team that should, and I think definitely can come out, and it, like 2 touchdowns is a lot in a under 50 game, in my opinion. I don't know if there's any major injury. I tried to look it up. I didn't see any like major injuries to Tulane or anything.
I haven't heard anything.
I can not that real quick.
Yeah, not that they're the biggest. It's not like losing one guy might end their whole. Pratt's probably the one guy that like could really hurt them. Because that is there. I mean, do you think he's even? I don't know. I've seen him. Some projections have him as like a potential first round pick, but I kind of
he is. He can play himself into that. He has some talent.
So yeah, I would be.
I just checked on my app that I use. I don't see any Tulane injuries. It could always be wrong, but
I didn't see anything that favored me. I just think that the public is right on this.
K-State's got 2 guys that have been out for the season, a defensive end and a defensive back.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at a team like Kansas State and you think like, is this, first off, I mean, it's a historically not great team. Is there something I'm like, I don't know. I tried to look at everything I could find. Like, is there something I'm missing about this team you guys think that is just better than I know? Or do you like I just don't understand the spread.
This is the type of play. These are type of plays that I love because this is how everyone's looking at this, which I'm kind of surprised. You said that the public is on Tulane.
I think, well, I mean, it's come down 2.5 points on the spread.
Because I honestly thought what was going to happen, and this is why I love your side on this. Kansas State just destroyed Missouri 40-12. Now, Missouri's not a great team, but they're an SEC team. So I love bouncing on a team that dominates a team like that and then playing against them the next week. I think 14's way too big of a number. Kansas State's good. Don't get me wrong. They have a really good running back, like a Heisman-type candidate running back.
What it was.
And that's why maybe this line, Deuce Vaughn's incredible.
Deuce
Vaughn, that's what it is.
Yeah. That's the one guy that can just break away. But I think that Tulane can keep this within 14. Again, when you dominate Missouri like that, I think this line is inflated because of that win right there.
Yeah. I just like Michael Pratt. I think he can keep it with it. Like if they get down by 21 at some point, just watching Pratt out there whipping the ball around, it's like, all right, just come back, get back to 14. Like I think that line makes me feel better. But yeah, Deuce Vaughn is the guy. I don't know. A running back, really? I don't know. That just feels
better than a quarterback. That's for sure. I mean, it's better than it being a quarterback.
Yeah.
It looks pretty even. Like everything I'm seeing with what I use looks like about even on the bets and about even on the money, right? As of right now.
I mean, I'm telling you, dude, if Kansas State did not just destroy Missouri, that line would not be 14. That would be like a 10-point spread. That got way put up because of what they just did to Missouri. So that's why I think you're on the right side there.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's funny. Like I had that up and I closed it, I guess, because then as soon as you said it, I saw it again. I'm like, yep, that was one of the reasons I picked it, because I was like, that is just, it feels like an outlier game. And I mean, and like I looked at a bunch of lines because I thought, like you were saying, I looked at Miami at first too. Like I bet that I liked because I thought it'd be way. I didn't think it was better than I thought it would be. I guess to be that way. Because I wanted to bet Miami, and I was like, how much is the public or the and it's like those are the teams I look at first when I look. I look at these big outliers like that, games that I don't think are going to repeat and go from there. Like, they got up versus Missouri. Are they going to get up again versus Tulane? 3:30 p.m. I don't know. Is Pratt going to have a chance to keep them in the game? I think so. So I'd rather bet that way.
Yeah. I could see you getting a backdoor cover on that one for sure.
Yeah, and that's all I need. And like I mean that is the thesis of a lot of bets. And in the NFL, I think it's a lot easier to talk yourself into with better players overall, like on the field. But in college, just the quarterback can get you there.
Yeah, without a doubt. I could see it actually being a pretty fun game, to be honest with you. So I'm with you on that. I'm gonna go to I love isolating team totals in college football. It's one of my favorite things to do. And this is so there's a lot of cappers out there that are situational, that are analytic, and I like to do a little bit of both. I sometimes am maybe to a fault sometimes am in love sometimes with situational type plays. And this is a revenge game for me. And I'm taking Utah over 37.5 team total against San Diego State. A couple things here. They lost to San Diego State last year, okay? Utah does not want to be losing to San Diego State. San Diego State is much worse than they were this year than they were last year. They were actually a pretty decent team last year. This year, they're really bad. Arizona actually pretty much they dominated San Diego State, and Arizona's an up-and-coming team. They're not a good team yet. The other play in this is the most important one to me. The revenge is important. It's at Utah. It's at night, but this is the more important one to me. Utah is fighting to get in the college football playoff, they hope. A lot of people think their chances are done after that Florida loss, and they might be. But the only way that they could get back into the playoff is if they dominate every single team from here on out. And they're going to have chances to do it against teams like USC. If Oregon can beat BYU, that will help this weekend. That will help them out. They're going to have chances to do it, but they're going to have to do it in a what I like to call sexy fashion. And they look into this stuff. The committee looks at that stuff. Utah is well capable of putting up 40 points against San Diego State. Again, San Diego State is not your San Diego State of old. They're depleted. Utah is better in every single category. And Kyle Whittingham knows what I just said about the playoff factor. He's not going to take his foot off the gas. He's going to run it up. He put up like 75 against some Southern team last week when that game was over in the first quarter. But he wanted to keep running it up because he knows they have to win big and win sexy, and they have the players to do that. I like Utah first half as well. And I think you could even go on the spread. But like we were just talking about with backdoor covers, that worries me, and I would just much rather go with the sure thing, which is Utah's offense. And Utah's offense is going to score a ton. 40 points is well in their reach. I really like Utah over 37.5 team total as my second play for the show.
Totally agree with you. Usually we have some disagreement somewhere, but man, we're on fire with agreeing on pretty much everyone's plays tonight, it seems like. Right. So we'll take it. But I like that one. They pissed me off at Florida. I think they pissed off a lot of people at Florida.
But the thing about that game, man, if we look back at it, like they should have won that game. First of all, they had 2 goal line stops. Florida stopped, and then they threw an interception on the last when they shouldn't even been throwing the ball. Like you could go for a run play or kick it to go into overtime. If they won that game, everything changes. I just think that the line's been down on them since that loss when really, man, Utah is a really good team. I mean, like they are a really, really good team. It's hard to go into Florida week 1 in Gainesville in that humidity. You saw players throwing up on the sideline. These guys are from Utah. They're not used to that stuff. And I think they're pissed. I think they know that they were better than they were, and they're going to take it out on teams like San Diego State.
Yeah. Yeah, and because of where I've lived in my life, if anyone can vouch about how hard it is to go from like dry to humid and vice versa, it's definitely a thing. Like, I mean, it's not a huge factor in a handicap, but it's definitely a thing. So I'll say that. All right. So where were we?
So we're at the best bets time now, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're rolling into our best bets of the week here.
Yep. So let's just take a quick pause here. This is the Fighting Chance Fantasy College Football Betting Show alongside my guy Dan Hickman. We've got a great guest on today, DJ Mitchell. DJ, just want to make sure that's your Twitter tag there, right?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, yep, awesome. You guys can give him a follow there as you see DJ_Mitchell94. Really appreciate him coming on. He does a lot of DFS stuff, especially in hockey, but as you can see, he knows what he's talking about in college football as well. So let's get into our best bets of the show. These are our favorite picks of the weekend. Dan, go ahead and start us off, man.
Yeah, so I'm really happy about this one. It's going to be the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. We're going to go plus 6.5 right now is where it's sitting. I really prefer getting plus 7 like I did a little earlier, but I still love this bet. I've got this game a lot closer than that. I think like last year it was 33-31. Western Kentucky took it away in Bowling Green where they are. This year it comes back to Indiana. Of course, Bailey Zappi's gone. He was drafted in the 4th round by the Patriots, but they got this kid, this Division II kid that put up some insane numbers in Division II last year, and he's, looking really good so far. This offense is still firing on all cylinders. They're a very dangerous football team. The thing that's going to blow your mind here about Western Kentucky, and it blew mine when I was researching this, was they actually, through the first 2 games of the season, I know they played crap opponents, one of them being Hawaii, but would you ever expect them to be one of the, even after 2 weeks, to be one the high, their defense forced the most turnovers per game at 5?
They
Could
could
you believe that
last year when their offense was going scorched earth and they couldn't stop anyone?
No, I'm saying their defense forced 5 turnovers in both their first 2 games.
That's great, man. That's
it's like
wild.
Insane stuff. And the thing is, this, for me, what this is going to come down to, if you look at SP Plus and what Bill Connolly at the ESPN's doing, Western Kentucky's got, if that means anything to anyone, Western Kentucky by that standard is a 58% chance of winning this game outright. This is another one I love a sprinkle on as well. I think maybe lean over, but the biggest thing is 58% there chance of winning. Predicted score on SP Plus is 31-27 Western Kentucky. I got it about 2 or 3. I got between 1 and 3 points, just like that Miami Texas A&M game. It's gonna be really a close one. And it really just comes down, the biggest part of this handicap for me is, Western Kentucky's passing attack still, with Austin Reed as his name, the new quarterback, versus secondary in Indiana that's definitely in the bottom 20-25% in the country. If I could do a bet that's where they finish the whole season, I would place that bet right now. So that is going to allow Western Kentucky to not only stay in this game, but probably win it, in my opinion. So give me Western Kentucky plus 6.5.
Yeah, the line definitely, the movement is definitely going your way too. It looked like it opened at 7.5. So
yep.
That's going to be actually a pretty fun game to watch there. I don't really have much more to say on that, but I'll be cheering for you for sure.
All right.
I guess that brings me favorite bet. I'm always I like to look at very large overs and look which ones are going up and then bet the under, which is one of my favorite things to do, because as it rises, it eventually, not always, but sometimes it'll fall. And Fresno State at USC right now, under 74 is minus 105. And that just screams correct to bet, because it started at like 71. It's gone up 3 points. I get it. Like, these are good offenses, and Caleb Williams might be the best quarterback in college football, but to assume USC is just going to give up like 25 to 30 points feels real fringe. It's a 12-point spread. So you're saying that USC is going to give up at least, 4 touchdowns. I just don't buy that. I know Hayner's not a terrible quarterback for Fresno State. He's probably fine. I think they're going to get bullied up front by USC, who I think is just a really, really good team all the way around. I think they're just very sound. Stanford got 28. I get that, but I don't think Fresno State, Stanford. B, some of that came late, I'm pretty sure. I think USC is just all around really, really good team, and I think they beat them pretty easily. So I could go with the spread as well, but I'd rather just say Fresno State doesn't get many points. They get blown out, and this game ends up like 31-12 or 14-13. They just probably go for 2 or whatever, and this ends up being a total dud. I think that's way more in the range of outcomes than this going for 75. That just feels... that just like then like I said, I like this one. It keeps rising, and I'm gonna grab it at its peak and go under. And I think that is the way to do it. I think people are just talking themselves into USC, Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, Jalen Addison.
For sure.
Jordan. Yeah.
Yep.
Jordan Addison. I get it, right? But like those guys might not be on the field late in this game. Like they might not need to be because I don't think Fresno State's all that good. So dominate up front. USC is going to run the ball a bit more.
This is a pro Fresno State show.
I don't hate Fresno State. I just like.
Oh no, that's just you, Dan. I'm all over USC on this one,
Fresno
dude.
State.
Yeah, I am totally fine with I think it's either you could take them both too. Like USC winning by more, I think even leads to the under hitting more often, just logically.
Agreed.
So like you're basically saying that Fresno State doesn't get there, and I think that's like I would rather just make it easy on myself and say less things have to go right for me if I bet the under than if like because USC could literally just pull their guys and backdoor cover on me, but. I don't think the backdoor cover is going to get you over 75 in this scenario. Like I just don't think like that line is massive. I these are the bets I make, and I have friends that are always just like, "That's no fun. You're a nerd." I'm winning money though. Like I'd rather
that's all that matters,
right? Like I know it's a super soft like double condom play, but it's the right one, and I'm just gonna do it. I don't care.
It is the right play because you need two offenses to get there when you're talking about that high of a number. USC can get up there. USC's defense is surprisingly really good this year. I thought it was going to take some time for them to. Stanford's quarterback is a NFL quarterback. He will be drafted at the very least in the second round, maybe even the first. And they shut him down all the way until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the 14. That's what I had up. Yeah, they was literally 2 touchdowns, and then at the very end, right? That's what I had. I was like, this USC defense is awesome. Yeah, it
was incredible. And so Fresno State's not going to have that offense. I love this play, and I also am probably going to end up betting USC on the side. I just think that USC is really good, but I think that this is the smart way to go about it. It's just so high, and this is going to be kind of funny because what DJ just said is actually usually how I go about plays, but I am doing the complete opposite for this play right here. Right. And sometimes I just have to do this because unlike in that one, you're going to get two offenses that can put up numbers. This is the opposite of good CLV. I'm not getting the closing line value here. And to be fully honest, I don't care, but I would say get it as soon as you can because I do think it could still go up. And that is Maryland and SMU over 73.5. That is an absurd number. I get it. If you're scared to take some that high, you do not have to. I think that the winner of this game is going to be in the 50s. These are two offenses that are incredible, and they don't know how to spell the word defense. Maryland, people don't really know or watch a lot about Maryland here. Maryland, other than outside of Ohio State, probably has the best wide receiving core in the whole country. They have 3 guys on that wide receiving core that's going to get drafted. They've got some phenomenal receivers. SMU, a lot of people thought their offense was going to step off when they lost their head coach. It's just as potent. The defense is just as non-existent. It's a night game. It's going to be fun. It's in Maryland. There's going to be a lot of tension going on there. And I actually think SMU has a chance to upset Maryland in this.
Oh, yeah.
Because the fact that it's only a 2.5-point spread in Maryland is weird. And that might end up being the best play out of this. But I have to take an over in this game. I have to. I don't see how any of these defenses can stop either one. It's going to be a crap show offensively. Both sides are going to go so fast, so quick. It's going to be a ton of quick scoring plays. And again, I think SMU could end up winning this game. And I understand it's high, and I understand you could be a little worried. And usually I do exactly what DJ said. But for this one, when you have two teams that are this good offensively and this bad defensively, I'm okay taking it, even though it's gone up. I'm taking the chance on this one, and I think it's going to reward me. So give me SMU Maryland over 73.5.
Yeah, can dig it.
There it is. All right, before we go into a DFS segment here and let DJ kind of teach us some stuff about DFS, do you want to put up the picks and just do a little quick recap so everyone can get it fresh before we move on? So as you can see here, I'll just go through it quick. Me, Kayvon, a Utah team total over 37.5. Miami, Texas A&M under 44.5. And my best bet is Maryland, SMU over 73.5. You got Dan, Old Dominion, Virginia under 53. Miami +6 at Texas A&M. And the best bet is Western Kentucky +6.5 at Indiana. And then DJ, you've got Nevada team total over 8.5, which is plus money, and that is incredible. You've got Tulane +14, or over 16.5 team total. I see you have there, and then you've got best bet Fresno State, USC under 74. But just to be clear, Tulane +14 was the pick that he got out there. Is that correct, DJ?
Yeah. I like them both. Just
I like it.
Equally.
Yeah.
So I get some people might say oh, backdoor cover or over 16.5, and it's you could just play it either way. And I did round robin it, and I mentioned I might just mention what that is. If you like to bet the way I do, it's I like to make more money if possible, but I also like to put a little bit of. I like to do the straight bets, but round robining means that if all three of them hit, I get paid out for the full parlay plus all the combinations of two. So that would also mean that if two of them hit, I'll make back all of my money and profit. So getting 2 right, I'm profiting. Getting 3 right, I'm not only getting that parlay, but I'm also getting all of the combinations of 2. So like a 1 and 2 and a 1 and 3 and a 2 and 3, I get paid for all of those. Yeah, you have to stake a little bit more, but if you're good at betting, you'll end up profiting a lot more over the course of your life. And I also bet all of our favorite bets while we were on the show. 20 turns into 142, so it's plus 611 on our favorite bets. Just kind of pulled it quick on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Nice.
That is, you can shop them, but just put them together. It'll be fun to check in on. And I honestly like them all. The SMU Maryland game that's honestly a good segue into DFS when we get there, because that game isn't on the main slate, but on the late slate, I'm going to be having a lot of it. So
it is a perfect, and I do just want to piggyback. I'm so glad you did bring up round robin, because it really is a smart way to bet. I mean, it really gives you such a cushion in ways to do it. When you see a lot of people just throwing out parlays, don't get me wrong, parlays are fun. Like, you throw some fun money on it and all that stuff, but your whole day can be ruined if one misses.
Right.
But just like DJ said, you have so much more of a cushion for round robin. So let's get into it, DJ. Let's talk some DFS, man. The floor is yours.
Okay, so college football DFS it's kind of like my favorite thing in the world. I started with it. It was my first ever big hit. Maybe you guys will remember this game. I never will forget it. TCU at the time, they had Jalen Doxson, who got hurt. And I literally was looking up beat reporters, and I found this college kid that was Kavontae Turpin is taking over for him. And I was like, okay, he was minimum salary. He scored 4 touchdowns, he had over 200 yards. And me and Matt both dominated, but I actually won the slate. I was a junior in college, so that went right to the bar. Didn't pass, didn't even collect 200. It was amazing. It was just the funnest, watching him go for 4 touchdowns. So I love that. That really got me started in DFS to get me into doing all the sports. But college football is the most fun by far. I can't do it legally in New York, which is the worst. But what are you going to do? Anytime I'm out of the state, I think it could change eventually. But New York is just, I don't know. We could get into the logistics, but pretending to know what these regulators and everyone is actually doing is probably they're not doing anything. So that's probably why it hasn't happened yet. So very little. First off, in college football compared to other sports, it's a super flex, meaning you can play 2 quarterbacks, which is rare on all the main slates. I would highly suggest doing that in any GPP format. If you're playing the $15 50K to first and you're not doing that, you're a psychopath, in my opinion. It could work, but it's very unlikely. You just need a lot less to go right with 2 quarterbacks. And that's kind of how I play is when we do betting, we're talking about median projections. What do we think that the odds being, let's just the math on it is, and by the way, one thing I preach all the time is make sure you actually know what your odds are saying. Look up what plus 105 actually means in a percentage, because you didn't go to math and learn that 50% equals, minus 100. It's no one ever taught that. So make sure you understand what you're doing. But in this situation, you're trying to say, what are the extremes? And with SMU, like you said, the extreme SMU Maryland situation is not only does this over hit in regulation, but this goes to overtime. This is a close game. You get triple overtime, and this game ends up getting up to 110, 130. That can happen here, and it's very hard. But that's why I like to correlate games in general. I don't go overboard. But sometimes I do. But on a slate with 13 games, I don't like to go with like 5 guys in one game. It can happen, it can work, but you're probably not going to have the best outcome. The last lineup, so I actually finished, I think 102 in the last slate on the main slate. My lineup was right there, but I had freaking Bryce Young that just sunk me. But I had all the boys you needed. Didn't get there. The winner was Whistles Go Woo, who is an absolute goat. He had Vaughn, who went for 30. He had Roberts at running back. So he didn't correlate those guys, but he did do his game stack with Tennessee and Pittsburgh, which I'm surprised he said the under hit because I was like, that game went off. But he had Hooker, Tillman, and Wayne. Yeah, which was a really fun correlate. And then he had Tyler Buckner with Michael Mayer, which I'm surprised got as many points as it did. Tyler Buckner won't be in on this slate, but you can just see that like the build that won had that correlation I'm talking about. The game stack with another very cheap. Michael Mayer was a lock for me at 3,900. I played him in every lineup, so I had some of these pieces. I also had some Vaughn. It just didn't get there. Looking at this slate, ton of games. We didn't go into all of them. I'm not going to break down too much. And right now, it's not going to be the final product. I went with both quarterbacks, though, in KU Houston. So the main slate is noon to 4 p.m. Those are the only games, nothing after that. So I went with Daniels and Tune because I kind of just like that game the most. And I think that there's, in my opinion, the best outcome potential there for peak players to come through the quarterbacks and main receivers. Dell, I honestly don't know a ton about him other than he just seems to be their workhorse receiver, like the guy they want to feed as much as possible in Houston. He's 7,900, which is really expensive, but you can't afford it because there's a lot of value on this slate. So I just stacked that up because I'm just basically the theory is just like if Tune gets there, as I think he was, I don't know, I haven't like the he was the third quarterback I think in price, the Oklahoma quarterback, and then someone else. But I just think that I'd rather stack through Daniels and that game in general, the 4 p.m. hammer, stack through that game. I went with the guy Skinner for Kentucky or Kansas for now as a placeholder, but he seems to be their deep threat. He's the guy that had every one of his catches has been like a 20-plus yarder. So again, if Kansas is losing, which is what I'm kind of expecting, they might start airing it out. Skinner's the guy I think they have, but this is kind of a placeholder. He was my last guy in. I just wanted to put something with him. I also do like the Western Kentucky Indiana game, which is here, but I'm kind of going through the Indiana running back in Shivers because he does seem to be the guy getting the massive bulk of the carries. And I think that Kentucky's going to throw a lot, meaning that I think Indiana will have a lot more time on the field. And I think they're going to try to not have their quarterback throw too much because I don't think he's very good. At least he hasn't played well to start the year. So I just kind of like that having him in here. I want to get a Western Kentucky guy in this lineup. I don't yet because I will really want Sean Tucker for Syracuse, who I think is just a different breed of player. He's kind of, I don't know if I want to say mortal lock, but I'm probably going to find different combinations of him and different Purdue guys with other lineups. Just the way he plays. And my favorite thing is, honestly, is after the game that he had, I think he had like 30 DraftKings points. He tweeted about how disappointed he was with his, I don't know if you guys saw that. He like had this whole tweet about like, I know it was a good game. I know we won. We played great. I expect more from myself. That game wasn't enough. And I'm like, dude, you're like 125 yards in a score. Like, calm down. So yeah, I mean, right. If you go with that kind of shell, and then I just stacked 2 receivers, and right now it's kind of very contingent. Some guy named Roberts on BYU has been their number 1 receiver.
Yep.
I don't know a lot about him other than BYU's banged up at receiver. So if he still is in at the number 1 spot, he's 200 above. Yeah, 200 above the minimum. He'll be really, really popular. So that's why I'm trying to get different elsewhere. And I think I kind of did a good job. And then Franklin for Oregon. Again, I don't know a ton about him. He just seems to be more of a red zone target for them. So I'm just kind of betting on that correlation getting there in a game that I also like. So I tried to kind of pick out the games. That's a very basic build that I just kind of put together off the cuff. There's a lot of ways to go, and you can correlate more, you can uncorrelate, but like I said, try to, if you're going to build lineups, which I highly suggest, because I think it's the most fun way to bet, is to have actually a chance at 50K and make 5 or 6 lineups and like have, that's my favorite way to play. I would play around with it, find different combinations. You don't need to have quarterbacks in the same game. I think that's a trap that some people fall into, but it can work. I highly suggest looking at running quarterbacks because a lot less has to go right for them to get there. I just like them. Like a guy, I think the best example is just like think about the NFL and think about Jalen Hurts. It's like, what does he
or Lamar?
Or Lamar. Like all they have to do is run in one score, and they're already going to be. They're going to throw a lot. Like so, that's not going to go away. So I love getting guys like that. Try to find a running back or two that you think are actually going to get the bulk of carries. The winning lineup actually punted running back pretty well. Not Vaughn, but they picked a guy named Nick Watson, I think, or not Nick. I don't even know. He's the running back for Washington State.
Yeah.
I had him on the radar, but I just didn't love. He just kind of lucked into 2 touchdowns. I think he only had one reception for a touchdown, so he kind of got there luckily. But you can find guys like that. My main play that I locked in, and this is kind of the last point I want to make before we want to get out of here. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take a guy. Well, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I took the starting running back for Marshall just because though I do like I used to be a Notre Dame fan growing up or whatever, but I was like, this is just like he was like 3,700. I'm like, Notre Dame is not that good. Like this is they're just and like no one was playing. I looked at the ownership, it seemed like not many people were in on it, and I was like, this is the perfect guy. Look at a team. Yeah, and that's what got me there. Like I still, like I said, I had the complete wrong quarterback, and I still got there because I just went with whatever the guys did. I can't think off the top of my head. Like, do those plays though. Like, if you think you have a guy that's a workhorse, like you can play for South Carolina against Oklahoma and just do it. Like, run it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen is, I wouldn't even say worst can happen. Like, if you're building a lineup for 50K, if you finish if you finish dead last, or you finish like in the top 30%, or like just outside the top 30%, you get nothing. Like you have to finish above that top 30. So having a guy that has a chance to be like in a complete different game script than the public is on, and that actually is going to touch the ball a lot, is what I value more in college football than anywhere else, because there's so much variance. Like there's going to be a few upsets. There's going to be another Marshall this week. We don't know who it is. We can pretend to know, but we don't know. And I would just pick out the team, and South Carolina might not be a good example. They might just be terrible. But we run through the game. But like I am not afraid. And like if you're afraid to play those guys, just don't play DFS because you're just not going to get there. You have to take a stance somewhere and look through the early games and take that stance. There's a lot of guys, and like you can even I love talking about DFS, but I know we want to get out of here. I definitely think you should take some risks that you would not take when betting, and don't let your bets bleed into your lineups.
Yeah,
put those to the side.
Mistake.
Put those to the side.
Made that mistake before.
They're playing South Carolina's playing Georgia. That's why.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't actually. I would look elsewhere. But
they might score a field goal and that's it.
Yeah.
So like I know South Alabama is at UCLA and that's on the slate. Like look at South Alabama. Like no one is going to talk themselves into that. And is South Alabama going to beat UCLA? You don't need them to. Like you just need them to score 5 touchdowns and have the guy that scored 3 of them. Like could that be the guy that takes all their carries, LaDamian Webb? I don't know, but I might consider him if he's cheap enough. We can move on. I just think that's how you win in GPP. And if you're going to be playing for 50K, you have to find a guy like that. And I know in this build I have, it's not really that way. This is more of a cash game build, really. But I that's kind of how I want to get started. Just kind of mention some names, mention some theory, and then go from there. But definitely throw a lineup in this week.
Yeah, no, that was awesome the way you explained that. So let me ask you a question real quick, and then we can get out of here. You said that Kansas-Houston's your favorite game of the week, the one that you're that for DFS that you're looking to exploit the most. Why is that? Like a lot of people will look at and they'll say, okay, highest total, where they think the most points are, and you're kind of going where you just, it seems like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you just like the players in that, which is smart because it's DFS and you're focusing, you feel like the players in that game bring the most value and have the best possible game script. Is that correct? Like how do you land on that type of game?
I mean, I'm probably going to have about 5 or 6 lineups, so I'll probably find 5 or 6 games that I get in on. This one came up, honestly, I just looked at some of the numbers for Kansas, and I mean,
I like it. That's why I'm with you.
They just beat West Virginia, and that definitely factored in. All right, I look at this West Virginia game, and I'm like, holy crap! They put up 55 on West Virginia. The spread is
Houston can score like crazy. Like it's gonna be a really fun game.
The spread is just enough for me to think that some people will not get in on it. It's 8.5, and I think that all right, it's 8.5. Some people might just talk themselves out this game, and I'd rather say, screw it. Kansas forces overtime. What does that look like? What does it look like when Kansas finds a way to get there like they did last week? Like maybe this Kansas team is just better than the public thinks, better than the markets think. A lot of people don't like to bet massive spread games in DFS because you just like a lot of guys will just come out. And like that's your biggest concern is that you have the right team and they bench their guys in the end of the third quarter. So I don't know. I don't know a ton about their quarterback either, but he does run as well. Daniels actually led the team in rushing attempts, which is it sold me on him. I'm putting him in the lineup for now. So I'd rather bet on him in general as just a player. Like I might not even game stack him. I might just have him in my utility. The last thing is also in your flex, always have the guy playing last because you can always make a change. College players can come out for whatever reason. So like, let's just say Daniels is in your flex and he gets COVID, for example. At least you can change him with any guy in that last game. So definitely make sure you're doing that. Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of ways that game gets there, like you're saying, with Houston's offense being so good. All you need is Kansas to keep it close. How are they going to keep it close? It's definitely through Daniels. If they're trying to keep it close, I think that their deep threat receiver is the guy I want to pair with it. And I just, looking at Houston, it seems like no matter what they do, they believe Dell is pretty much uncoverable. He's seen the bulk of all of their targets. They just came off a heartbreaking loss to Texas Tech.
Oh, I saw the end of that too. Yeah, absolutely.
So I really think that Clayton Tune. I don't know a lot about Clayton. That was the thing.
Oh no, he's awesome. He is awesome.
Genuinely I feel like I saw that name. And I'm like, this is a made up. Like, how have I never heard? Like, I feel like I've heard of him, but I don't know a lot about him. I'm like,
you're gonna see him on Sundays. He's awesome.
And how many attempts did he have rushing? 21 on the year. Again, that's how I try to look at this. Like, which game do I think has the most upside through their quarterbacks is how I normally start. Like, which quarterbacks do I like? And then both being in the same game is really what sold me. Now that I think, and then I find a way to fit things together, and I want to get Tucker. Okay, now what does that look like? That's kind of why the Franklin Roberts stuff is sort of like I'm not sure on that yet, and the Indiana running back. It's like those three pieces are kind of like I'm not sure if they fit perfectly in this, but I like to build around stacking in some capacity. So how I end up putting it together in the end might be different, but it's more of I think the upside in the players makes sense in Daniels and Tune rather than just like because even if the game could go under and they could still get there, they could just get there by literally scoring all the touchdowns, and they probably should. Like that's how these offenses go. They get like I said, Kansas leading rushing attempt is their quarterback. Houston's second leading runner is their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to be the guys that get them there. So if that game goes over, I'd rather have those guys that get them there. Whereas other teams, you can't say that for.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I also think if you're getting crazy, which I might, is go with Syracuse's quarterback and not Tucker and just assume, or even both, and just look if they can put it together, either together or apart, because that Syracuse quarterback can run too.
Oh, he's awesome.
So just like how does Tucker not get there, who is going to be one of the more popular plays? He probably doesn't get there because Syracuse's quarterback's running it in. So I think there's
touchdowns from him.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can definitely think about the extremes in each game and each team as most you can. Obviously, there's so many games, and find ways to think if this happens, what does this mean? And you obviously you can talk yourself into so many combinations, but the number one rule, in my opinion, is your highest. First off, the latest player in your flex, the highest price latest player in your flex if possible, because that gives you more options. Just because you have more. And then super flex, run two quarterbacks. I don't have the numbers on it because I can't play this all the time. I'm luckily someone's going to put in some lineups for me out of state. Don't tell the cops. But I can't imagine the winning lineup is not two quarterbacks almost ever. It would not make sense. You have to hit on those two quarterbacks, but you can. And like I said, I missed on one of mine, and I still had a chance just because I had the right pivot plays that no one was going to play. And if I just could have somehow put it all together, right? But that's why you play. And then you put it all together, you win $50,000 on 15, and you just you go crazy. I didn't win $50,000 the time I won. I think I won I think it was 3, because those contests weren't that big back in the day. It was like 3 or 350 or whatever. But when I was in college, that was $1 million. So
that's incredible, man. That's listen. I mean, that was great stuff. I learned a lot there, and I feel like a lot of people did too. So we appreciate that, man. I'm someone that does a lot of DFS in the NFL, and I really haven't dabbled in enough. But you sold me on it, man. I'm gonna do a couple lineups this weekend because of how you just went about that.
Yeah, college it's amazing to see like you will see teams that are drawing dead immediately because people don't know what they're doing at all. NFL is really sharp, but the same principles really apply. It's like, again, the correlation is just like when one player gets right, the odds of the other player getting right that you have with them just go way up. And if both of them do right and you have both of them, the other team now, there's a much better chance that those guys will get up because what produces more scoring is more scoring. Like scoring kind of builds on itself. It's not always the case when you have absolute blowout teams, but when you think a game can be tighter than the betting lines, it definitely can. So that's how I build. I definitely in every one of my games, like I said, I probably do 5 or 6 lineups in the main slate. I will definitely have at least 3 pieces in a game, more than likely 4 for one game, just praying that that's the game that goes crazy. Like if you get the right game, that's when you have a chance to get all the money. And you have to get a lot of other things have to go right to get 50K, but that's how you do it. And like I said, I pulled the winning lineup from last time. They did all the same principles I'm doing now. That's going to be the way to get it done almost every single time. It's not the theory. It's not the process or the theory. It's just like hitting the absolute stone nuts is really hard. So
love it, man. Great stuff. Really good stuff. So appreciate you coming on, DJ. That was awesome there. You guys can follow DJ on Twitter, DJ_Mitchell94 there. Clearly, as you can see right there, he knows a lot and knows what he's talking about. So I would highly advise to go and check that out. So that is it, man. This is the Fighting Chance College Football Betting Show. We appreciate you guys tuning in for week 3. We appreciate DJ coming on. As you can see one last time, these are our best bets. We will tweet them out as well, so you will be able to see them all tweeting out as well. But that's all for Dan, at DanH720, myself at Kayvon_sports, DJ, DJ_Mitchell94. We appreciate all of you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week. Let's go win some money.
Good luck, guys.